Okay, so we're in Illustrator. Here is our pattern tile. This is Cooper's that we're using. So right now, all the lines are lines. They are not objects. I'm going to go up to Object, and I'm going to go on to Path, and I'm going to choose Outline Stroke. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to have all my paths be objects so that they scale and they don't change line weight. So right now they're all, and if I zoom in, you can see where they're kind of overlapping. I've also decided that I want to make them all a single unit, all these guys. So I'm going to go to my Pathfinder tool. Here's my Pathfinder tool, and I'm going to use the shape mode unite. And that's making all of these lines connect. Now all of these lines are connected. They're all grouped. He's grouped them. That's why when I select one, they're all selected. If I want to ungroup them, I can go to Object, Ungroup. And now I can select this as one, the square is another, and this square is another. Okay, so here's my basic object. It's an object. There's no more lines. I've also united all the lines together to make one line object. Now, I gotta move my zoom. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna open up my graphic design. I'm gonna open up my library. So let me just close this. Couple things. Make sure when you're in Adobe Illustrator, let's start off with your workspace. I'm using typography. It's the one I tend to use. It gives you just everything I like. I'm just used to using typography. So that's the one I use. Even though we're not using typography right now, it's just kind of where I know where everything is. Okay, I don't need the Pathfinder anymore. I'm going to close that window. I don't need stroke because I don't have any more strokes. Now what I want to do is I want to open up my Creative Cloud library. So I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to go to Libraries and open up my libraries. Now, here, if you don't see your library right away, it takes a minute sometimes to load. So give it a second. So I have a lot of libraries because I use them for all my classes. So I'm going to go to my Graphic Design 1 color theory. And these are all the color theories I've made. So let's do the last one I just made. I did this triad chroma. I have the chroma, hue, and value. So I'm going to go ahead now before I get started, and I'm going to make 3 copies of this one I just made. So here's the one I just made into an object. I'm going to move it down here, and I'm going to do it 3 times. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to Command C, Command V, which makes a copy. And I'm going to Command C, Command V, and make another copy. So now I have my 3 copies. I need this 3 times because I'm going to do my 3 different color theories, 1 to each of these. Okay. So I'm going to open up my libraries again. I'm going to zoom in. We're going to look at one at a time. So here's my first one. I'm going to start with hue. Hue is going to be my first one. And when I roll over, you'll see I can select each one of these colors. So now you have 2 different selection tools. You have your regular selection tool and your direct selection tool. I want you to choose your direct selection tool. That lets you choose shapes within. So right now I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose red. That's going to be my shape that I made that. But I also want to fill the inside. If I want to make a solid shape, I'm going to draw over the top here and make a square that fills that. And I'm going to choose one of my other colors because I want to add solid shapes into my pattern. So here, all of these lines are going to become one color. I'm going to make them blue. And then down here, I'm going to make this line a darker blue. I'm going to copy the square I just made and bring it over here, scale it to fit in there. I'm going to change the color. And then I'm going to fill some of these with boxes of color. I'm copying, to copy a shape, I'm holding the Shift Option Command key down, and that allows me to duplicate shapes. So that's what I'm doing to make these shapes. And I want to fit it in there just right. And one is where I want them. And I might want to zoom in. You want to zoom in so you can really see, because from far away, we can't see that. Oh, we have a little gap of white showing. I don't want that. I want it all the way tight. I want it fitting in. So you want to zoom in and really see what you're working on. You don't want to work from so far away. So I know I'm using these same shapes down there. So I'm going to grab all three, Command C, copy, Command V, paste, so that I can, and then I'm going to rotate. If I come over in the corner, I can just rotate them. I'm holding my Shift key down, and that keeps it in 45-degree turns. Yes, Joan, I see a question.
So I was trying to do this. I couldn't figure out how to do it on mine with, I had more like wavy shapes, if you know what I mean. So I couldn't figure out how to fill in the gaps in that. Is there a different way to do that? Because I think the rectangle thing seems pretty easy, but it was hard for me to figure it out with
the
different
wavy shape.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm going to make another element to this. So let's say I have a make a wavy shape. Okay, so there, oops, sorry, I didn't close it. Boom. Okay, there's my wavy shape. Let me pull this down. Good question. Zoom in. All right, so here's my wavy shape. I'm going to make it an outline. Okay, so here's what's when it was a pen tool. I'm going to copy it. Here, I'm going to go Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. I'm going to make a copy of it. Object, Path. Oh, I know what I can do. I think you want to make, so instead of saying I have to draw another one, because right now we've made this a path, we can take the one that I made a copy of. Where's the one I made a copy of where it's still aligned? Okay, down here. Use the one that's still aligned that before that you made a copy of, and you can reverse it, and that becomes your fill. So in this case, I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. So my outline path is on top, and I've used the one that I had originally before I turned it into outlines. I filled it, and that became my fill. And I put it behind so that the outline path can be on top. So this is the one that we started with. I've just reversed it and made it a fill, because that's essentially what you want to do. No, you can't use the bucket tool because this is now a shape. Once you've created an outline, it's not an object you can fill. When we're in Illustrator, the bucket tool you're thinking of is in I think we have I think you're thinking of Photoshop versus Illustrator. So this is your fill shape. Does that make sense, Joan?
So I don't, the thing is, I did my waves like as individual lines, so I don't know how to get them into one shape to fill. Do you know what I'm saying?
You just have to connect to them somehow.
Oh, okay.
So wherever, you just need to connect them. So if they're individual lines, you need to join them. So okay, if you have individual lines, so let's say you have a curved line. Okay, there's a curved line. I'm going to let go of that. And then I'm going to create another curved line. Let's say that's my other one. And I'm sorry, they don't look right because they're filling in that lines. Let me make them lines. Okay, so there's like you had two separate curved lines. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
and you want to make them a shape,
Yeah.
you would go to your pen tool and you would select the point of one where you then you have a connection and you bring it over here. And when you see this little anchor element coming in there, now I've connected them. And I would do the same down here. I take my pen tool, connect to the outline outside of this line, connect it to this line, and now I've made a closed shape of this shape, where I can now go over here to the toolbar, reverse it so that it's a fill versus a line, and now I have a filled shape. Does that make sense?
I think so. I'm gonna try it and see if.
Try it, and then we can look at yours too. We'll try it and see.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna move these guys out of the way. I'm gonna come back to this guy. All right, so here's my pattern, and I might decide that I want to add, I might want to add a fill here, but I think I'm going to leave that open. And actually, I think I'm going to make a little adjustment. I think I'm going to make these two like that. Okay. So now this is my hue colorway. Now here's my second colorway I'm going to do. And I'm going to start with, I'm going to do value. So I'm going to choose value. Okay, I'm going to grab my square from over there that I made and pull that in. And I'm going to add the color value here. I might change it up a little. Add my, copy my, I'm going to copy Command V, these shapes, but recolor them with my new colorway. So whenever you're working, like whenever we're working in a lot of brands and packages, we a lot of times do different colorways for different, let's say this was a brand of bubbly water, and we just, we want to show the different flavors. So we might do different colorways of the same pattern for different flavors that we want to highlight for the same product, but they're different flavors. So it's the same pattern, but we're going through and we're showing different feel for each of the product lines. All right, so that's my value design. Maddie, yep, you have a question.
So I don't exactly remember what the assignment sheet said, but are we allowed to use the whole color palette that we picked, or is it just for like filling in the line work and then making the shapes for inside? Like, is there a limit to color?
So no, you have the 5 colors. You mean going beyond the 5 colors? Is that what you're asking?
Well, like, can we use the full color palette in the design?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm using the whole color palette. I'm using all 5 colors. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can
perfect.
also put in a background color. It doesn't have to be just the I can go to object, arrange, send to back. I can fill the whole background tile. So let's go into our chroma. And so for chroma, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and make the chroma one have a background. You can also incorporate white. So I might incorporate white on this one and do this one kind of as a reverse version, just to show you what that would look like. Let me zoom in so I can get my alignments where I want them. Okay, there we go. And so for this one, I'm working in my triad. Pulling this in. All right, and I'm bringing, so I'm in the final stages here. So this is me using all 5 colors, and I'm doing a reverse of my pattern in this design. So, but it's still within my, so this is my chroma, this is my value, and this is my hue. So these are all the same pattern tile, but 3 different colorways. So again, if we had a product we were marketing, we would be showing different colorways of maybe different flavors or different, some different element. One is sugar-free, one is regular, one is diet, whatever. So that there's different variations for each of these designs. Okay, are there any questions about applying your Creative Cloud library colors to your tile?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could go over how to get the libraries into Illustrator.
They're
That's when I
automatically in
check my
Illustrator.
libraries.
So do you, what I find, if your library is not showing up in Illustrator for you in the other libraries tab, you, and a lot of times we have multiple Adobe accounts. Make sure when you're in Adobe Color, you've signed in as your COD Adobe account. You have to be in your Adobe COD account. If you're not, it's going to your other account. So when you go, and the way you check that is if you're in Adobe Color, you check, can you guys see my Adobe Color screen right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see I have my name and you can see there's my COD email. So I am signed into my COD email. Check right here and look, are you signed into your Adobe by COD, your COD email? Look on Adobe Color, Cooper. Do you see?
It should be my COD one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That
If it's not your
problem.
COD email here, that means you need to sign out, and you use the sign out right here, sign out and sign back in with your COD account.
All right.
Okay.
So the
And that
colors I already made aren't going to be saved on it, right?
that's right. You'll have to redo it. You'll have to redo it. Yeah, if you have another Adobe account and you're not signed in using your COD account, it won't connect to your COD. You need to be in your COD. Okay. So now I am going to take these. So this is the most important. So now I've chosen, I'm going to choose my tile and do one at a time. So here's my first tile, and I'm going to go to Object, Pattern, Make. Voila. And it tells me the new pattern has been added to the swatches panel. And I'm like, great. But we're not done. We have lots of choices. This is just the generic default. So this is just, one option. What we want to look at is, first of all, we want to name it. So I'm going to name this, right? This is my hue. And I'm going to name it by my color theory, which is triad. So I'm going to call it triad. triad hue, because I'm going to have 3 different color theories. So I want to be very clear in naming it so I don't get confused. Now, the tile type is up to you. You can have a grid. You can design it brick by row. You can design it brick by column. Yep, Maddie, I see you have a question.
So I know how to get the pattern option, like I know how to find that, but I don't necessarily know, like here, let me go on my Adobe because I don't have the option for, like I don't think I have the option for like the different type of grid because it just says grid and that's it. How did you get to the?
Under tile type, it'll always say grid. That's the default. Tile type grid is the default. So it'll say that first always, but that's usually the most uninteresting choice. So like for this design, it's super boring to do the grid. But when I go into this column, brick by column, which is it's a pull down menu. So look at your, do you see it? Are you in your Illustrator?
Yeah.
Okay, do you see that?
Hold on, let me.
You have to be like making a tile. So like select something on your
Yeah,
page
I have
to
it.
make a tile.
I have it selected.
Okay.
Oh, I found it. Okay, got it.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
So brick by column, I'm liking. I'm kind of really liking this. Now, there's some other things I can do. So I'm going to stick with the brick by column. I'm liking it. Now, the next choice is brick offset. It says 1/2 inch. That's how far you're offsetting from the pattern. I could say 1/3 of an inch. I could say 1 to 5. I could say 2 to 5. It's something to look at. What makes sense? Go back to 1/4. Don't like that. I can go to 1/2. Okay, I'm kind of liking that. I'm liking that. Now, you can also adjust the width and height of your tile. You can also size tile to art. And this, for me, that's just, it's a pretty, I have a pretty square tile design here, so it's not like I have to do much. Move tile with the art. I've got that selected. There's also overlap. You can decide to overlap, different overlaps. We don't really have an overlap in this design. Copies, 5 times 5. You can decide how big your pattern's going to be. So if I say 9 to 9, or it's going to go much bigger. So depending on your application, you can make these bigger. We only need 5 by 5 because we're doing a square on our template. We don't need it to be super big. And so that's it. So once I have all of the choices I've made and I have it the way I want it, and I've named it, make sure you name it. There's my copy. It's showing me right there. There's the swatch preview. And then where you're going to find it is in the swatch panel, sorry. And then down here, you're going to see there's all your colors, but then down here, this is where our patterns are going to drop into. I recommend making a folder. So I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to call this color theory patterns. And I'm going to say, okay. And so then I can keep all of my color theory patterns. There's my pattern. It's at the end in a folder so that, oh, it didn't go in. Why isn't it going in? Oh, it has to be, I have to add in.
This is all for project 6, correct?
No, this is all project 5 that was due today.
Oh, okay.
We haven't started project 6 yet. All right, there's our color swatches, just the swatches. All right, so now, as soon as I'm done, I want to exit my editing. So I'm going to exit pattern, and that's my first one. So then if I want to add I create a square, and I can choose my pattern to fill it. There's my pattern I just made for project 1 for hue. So here's my hue tile right here. And here's the pattern. And that's what I would apply into that final template. And then I would repeat that process for each one of these. Are there any questions?
Do you have to make so many tiles or just make it unique, basically?
I'm not following your question.
Okay, for example, like if you like looking back at like some of the student examples too. So for example, like Cooper, he mainly has like 3 like like designs and like keeps those, while for example like another classmate, Maddie, like she took similar to what you're doing right now, is like you have like one design and you're just multiplying it a lot of times.
This is what we're doing. That we're taking one pattern tile, doing 3 different colorways. And so like we talked about Maddie's design, she did different patterns. That's not what we're doing. The assignment is to do one for each. We're doing 3 total. You're doing 3 different designs, but each design you're doing 3 different colorways of the same design. That's the assignment. So this one we would, yep.
No, continue.
Object, pattern, object, pattern, make. There it is. Now I'm in pattern options, and now I design the pattern. And I choose my tile type. And this can be different than the last one. It doesn't have to be the brick by column. If you want, you can make it different. This is where you can revise based on your same tile. You can revise the pattern if you want, but it's the same tile.
Okay.
All right.
So,
and then I'm
like, so are we just choosing like one design that we have like from like, so like one design, and then just putting like, for example, like the different like color schemes that we was like looking at today, like that we created today on Adobe Color, and then just making a bunch of patterns or a pattern.
you're doing 3 different patterns. So for example, this is Cooper's. This is his one design.
Okay.
Here's his second design is down here. His third design is over here.
Okay, that makes sense now. All right, sounds good.
Okay, so there's 3 designs. So I'm just going to move these off. These are his work. So this is the pattern tile up here. Here's the pattern tile. I've done it 3 different colorways. I'm making 3 different patterns. I have 1 more to make for this guy. Then we're going over to this. Then he would go over to this one. He'd apply his next color theory. So this one might be a square color theory. And then he's going to do that 3 different times, 3 different patterns. I mean, 3 different colorways of his pattern. Then this is the third design. So you're going to have 9. You have 3 color theories. Each color theory has 3 variations. So that's a total of 9 color palettes you're working with. And you have 3 tiles you're working with. And you're coloring those 3 tiles 3 different ways.
Oh,
that makes sense?
Okay. Wait, so for example, like back to like that example, the first one that you just created, it would have to be like 3 different like color variations?
Absolutely.
Oh.
You're doing
just for like
hue,
just for one, like per
value,
design,
and chroma for each one.
Oh, okay, in that case, okay. Dookie Duke.
All right, so here's this last one. This is what it looks like. I'm gonna put it back in the brick by column. I'm gonna make it bigger. And then I'm gonna exit. Okay, so last one I've done, it's right here. I'm going to choose my last one, and there it is. So I've just finished all 3 patterns that I'm going to use for my first one. And this one is the triadic colorway. So I would label it I can't see. Triad hue. Okay, so this is triad hue. This is value. And this one is chroma. Okay, this is my tile right here. So when I say this is the tile, that's the tile. This is colorway. Oops, did I lose one? There we go. So here's triad hue. And colorways, doing the same pattern, multiple, look at how many, the point of this is look at how different the same pattern can look depending on how you color it. The mood it has, the feel it has, that's the point of this. Understanding how color can completely change the look and feel of a single design. That's the point that we're learning. That's the concept we're understanding. The objective of this is to understand how powerful color can be in changing the look and feel of the exact same design. Are we all following? Thank you, Maddie.